Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting, coming to you today with another lesson in the Introduction to Sales and Communications course. And this is what is a sales cycle. So a sales cycle is just the stages or process, okay, that it takes for a sale to occur. So for example, you know, there has to be a point of contact in terms of we can't just sit here, think of a product, or let's say we make a handbag. And I'm just sitting here like unless I talk to someone or engage with someone, the handbag's never going to get sold. If I just sit it on the table, it's not going to sell itself. So there always has to be a point of like initial contact, which is usually marketing or outbound sales. So things like, for example, inbound sales would be if we had marketing ads or advertisements that run, and then we have interest or generation of interest from that marketing. Another way is if we did outbound, so we did door-to-door sales, so door knocking, if we did cold calling, if we did cold emailing. So basically, a sales cycle, when we think about it, it's a visual representation of all the different little interactions and touch points and, pieces of information, of conversations, of questions that have to be asked for us to end in the final outcome being the sale. So typically a sales cycle will have an initial stage. So if we think about it like this, the sales cycle is after the point of initial contact. So like, for example, we have to have client details. So if we're in inbound sales and we're doing inbound sales, this is where leads click on the advert or on the lead form, and they generate a lead into your CRM or system. Now, in cold calling or outbound sales, this might be the lead list. Okay, so when we buy the list of leads and input it into our CRM, this is what we've got now. This is the sales cycle doesn't begin before we get the leads. The sales cycle is from the lead and on. So an important thing to understand is that we want to measure in our sales cycle, all right, all of the different touch points. So the phone calls, the text messages, the emails, the different questions we have to answer for the customer, like the different information we have to convey to them and educate them on. So for example, if we take buying a house, well, if we don't understand anything about finance and loans, if we don't understand anything about conveyancing and, contract law, if we don't understand anything about building permits, building or anything like that, we're unable to buy a house because there's tasks in the process that all have to be checked off. So, for example, if we were, trying to, work with clients that are building houses, well, we have to be aware and measure, are there, let's say, the building approval, is the building plan up to scratch and approved by the bank? So we have to get that done. The land, is the land being evaluated by the bank? Is the land contract there? Is it all set up? Has the initial conveyancing been done? The finance. So we're creating our sale for someone to buy a house. Well, we have to make sure that the house plans and all that are all good and accepted by the bank. We've got to make sure that the land's all good, accepted by the bank and under contract with the client. We've got to make sure the finance, that the borrowing capacity, the savings, all of that line up. So we're trying to sort of line up all these different elements of the sale to make it as smooth and easy of a process, because there are some sales agents that will let the client go out and do everything on their own and sort of just wait for the ones to come back. But typically, when we're thinking about sales cycles, we're in the mindset of creating the most streamless process or experience from not understanding or even knowing who the business is, all the way through to purchasing products and sort of after sales care. So what we want to do is we want to map out all of the different touch points. So an easy way to do this is just to understand that, we got to work out how many times is it going to take us to call a customer to book the first meeting. How likely from a first meeting are we going to progress to a second meeting? And we're working out all the stats, all the, averages. Because if for example, if we get 100 leads a week, and out of those 100 leads, 20 are potential buyers that progress to the next stage, but out of those 20 buyers that progress to the first meeting, only 3 buyers progress to the second meeting. Do you sort of see? So we're using a sales cycle as a tool because it's just the visual representation. So, stage 1, initial contact, stage 2, first meeting, stage 3, second meeting, stage 4, final meeting, stage 5, payment, whatever it may be, however it may set up. And basically we're creating in each of the stages milestones and markers to hit. If we can get these things accomplished, we can move to stage 2 and know that, we're on track. So it allows us to keep track of all the different tasks and sort of do our housekeeping in a better way. Because if we understand that, generally it takes 2 calls and 3 emails to get through to someone to have them booked out, then we know on average, we're going to create a 2 call or a 3 call process to, we're going to call them 3 days in a row, one day after the other until they answer. We're going to email and text them as well. So we're sort of working that out so that we know with every new customer in, they just fall into a 3 call stage, like a 3 call process. And then they either fall off and drop out or they progress on to the next level. And those that we don't get through to and can't get through to fall off as well. So it allows us to be more efficient with our time and energy, but it also allows us to create a process and a structure that is easier for a customer or a buyer to comply to the most effective way of doing it, or the most effective way to get from point A to point B. So it's very, very important that we are detailed, but we also have to understand that it needs to be flexible. A sales cycle, okay, is just a visual representation. So it's flexible. We can change it or we can become, very strict on it. So when we have a process that works, for 80% of our ideal customers, then it's sort of like, well, we don't want to go out there and be changing that process for each individual customer. So it's sort of like we mold the customer to fit through the process. And that's what it's sort of the sales cycle becomes, is a process of molding the customer, of taking them on the journey or the experience. Whereas other times our sales cycle can be used as a flexible marker or indicator of where we're trying to direct the customer, but we also want them to independently sort of get there on their own. So sometimes we want to have it where we 100% direct them. This is the path you go down. This is how you go down the path. All right, I'm going to come down the path with you and make sure that you get down there smooth and easy. And then the other way is more of a loose guide through it. So if we think about it like this, okay, applying for a home loan and buying a dress. Okay, when we apply for a home loan, well, the finance agent or the banker isn't sit there and sort of let us just imagine our way of how the home loan application should look. There's a set process and they're there to guide you through it. Whereas buying a dress, there's no real set process. It's more based on, we're there to direct the customer to purchase something, and we're trying to incentivize them and encourage them to do that by creating an environment that, it makes them want to buy by having products and services that make them want to buy. But also, we want to create a space where it's not too overbearing, where they're able to sort of shop and browse at their own leisure. Because if there's strict rules on browsing, well, it takes away from the experience. So that's just what we want to understand, is sometimes the experience, okay, is better when it's rigid and when it's structured. And sometimes the experience is better when it's sort of flexible. I was trying to think of the other word for non-rigid, but flexible will do. When it's flexible, when it's easy, when it's light, when it's non-committal. So we just got to understand that difference in terms of how we run the process will alter the experience. Because if you walk into a clothing store and then you have to talk to someone and have someone show you each of the individual products and direct you through, and you can't do it on your own, but whereas, take, for example, the loan application, well, most times you don't want to do it on your own because, you're not doing this all the time. So we just want to understand that and create our sales cycle to reflect the requirements that are needed in terms of, is there times that we need to have more control and more direction where we're directing the customer or the buyer to where they need to go? Or do we need to pull back and sort of let them self-direct and sort of just, show them, if we take the dress shop, we're showing them, well, this is what's popular this season. These are our off-whites, these are our whites, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? So we're taking them around and we're sort of just indicating directions and sort of letting them lead and sort of letting them direct the next progression. So maybe we start in dresses, then we move to, jeans, then we move to shirts, then we move to shoes, whatever it may be. Do you sort of get it? All right. Well, that's going to end this one, and you guys have an amazing day. Thanks so much. Bye.